Your setup is very nice, very professional.
Well, thank you.
Like we can engage. I don't have to do too much. There's not a bunch of cords crossing my lap and animals walking around.
Yeah, fuck with dogs and cats.
This is very personal work for me.
Politics.
I believe I was called to tell my story, use my voice, be a voice for the community, to speak to and for a community of people that's been ignored, denied, overlooked.
Religion.
This is my life's work.
Religion.
I want to use words to uplift, heal, inspire, encourage.
Do something different. Every Monday at 10.
Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. I'm Craig the Writer Stewart, and this is So Much to Say. These are my thoughts in my voice on black shit, white shit, gay shit, and everything in between. Today, my guest is podcast host himself, Kevin Dwayne. His podcast is Outline Podcast. So tell us about your podcast. When did you begin podcasting?
Oh, I began podcasting a little over a year ago, actually. The anniversary was July 15th, 2017.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you so much. It went by very, very fast.
And when do you podcast? You podcast?
Every Wednesday, my show
Wednesday.
comes on. And there's no set time on that because life happens. But every Wednesday, a show does appear.
At some point, it's gonna
At
drop.
some point on Wednesday, I try to do it first thing in the morning so my listeners can listen at work and on their commutes because that's when they care the most.
And that's why it's important to subscribe too.
Absolutely.
So be sure to stop right now and subscribe on the Outline Podcast, and of
Yes.
course, So Much to Say. Google Play.
Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, KevinDwayne.com. That's the hub for everything. So if
Absolutely.
you can't find it on those things, just go there.
And Dwayne is DWAYNE.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
that is it.
That's important.
That is very important.
Okay, so remember to subscribe, guys, because it's important. Because what you'll do, you'll get a notification. So if he drops his podcast at 10 a.m. on Wednesday or 10 p.m., you'll get a little notification on your phone and you'll know that there's a new show for you to listen to.
Yeah.
Same is the case for So Much to Say. So what made you begin podcasting? Was it like a burning desire that you had, or?
It is, I'm a creative, always been. And I did blogging for almost 10 years.
Okay.
So I was doing the YouTube thing.
And you're originally from LA.
I'm originally from LA. Yes, I'm glad you caught on to that. A lot of people are just like, where are you from? You
Right,
disappeared.
Right.
Yeah, I used to do YouTube all the time. Then it became like comedic videos and stuff. I've done little things here
I've
and
seen
there.
some of those.
Yeah, good. So at a certain point, I got tired of the visual aspect.
Okay.
Because you run out of clothes and then
Yeah.
lighting, and then if you're sweating, you're like, oh, I got to dry off. And then I was the producer, the director, and the person in front of the camera.
And having to edit.
Right, and having to edit. And it just, you will be surprised that something that's like 10, 15 minutes takes you 4 hours
Yeah.
just to produce and
Yeah.
get done. And I love podcasts. I was listening to like The Read and The Friend Zone. I was like, I really enjoy this. And literally one day, and it was July 15th, 2016, that morning, I said, I'm going to do a podcast.
And you did it the same day?
I did that the same day. I sent my friend a message. I said, I think I'm going to do a podcast. Before she could say, go for it, I was already at Fry's buying my equipment, driving back home. I did the photography. I did all the little...
So how did you know how to do it?
I am a self-teacher. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I am
And
all
I am
about it.
too. But I mean, the thing is, like, okay, so I decided, well, my mom had been telling me for years, so I have to give her credit. She's been telling me for years, Craig, you should do a talk show. But of course, in my mind, I was thinking talk show television. And I'm like, well, that doesn't just happen. Like, you don't just do a talk show. So then several people in my life kept saying different things like, oh, you should do a podcast. Like, people who didn't know each other. Living in different states. They were all saying the same thing to me at one point or another. You should do a podcast. And I had some working knowledge of what a podcast was, but I didn't really know how to get started. And so I lived in LA at one point, and I used to participate on a podcast. I used to just be a guest, and it was a husband and wife couple. And they used to get together like once a month. And they would invite a bunch of people over, and they would email us out the topic and say, hey, we're going to tape on such and such day. If you guys want to come and talk, you're welcome to come. And so sometimes I would go. And so I have a friend here that does a podcast. So I reached out to both of those people, respectively, and started asking them. But this was like weeks before my launch date. Like my very first podcast was May 1st, Monday, May 1st. And I decided to do Mondays because I had also did a little poll on my social media asking people, well, do you listen to podcasts? What days do you listen? So I knew that the read was whatever day they are. Thursday.
Every week I wait.
Right. And then somebody else was on Wednesdays. And so I said, well, and then another one was on Tuesday. And I said, okay, well, I'm doing Mondays because I'm going to be there when people get up for work and they get to work. And, Mondays are dreary.
Right.
And, so I'll be that little bit of sunshine on Mondays.
That's
so
smart.
that's how I did it. But for me, the reason that I wanted to do it was because I felt like it's an extension to the work that I already do in terms of the books. And, like, people are always on me about publishing this third book. Mm-hmm. And it takes time. And I'm writing it. But this podcast is a way to reach people on a weekly basis and give them my thoughts about television shows or music, but also to shift culture, to shift minds, to shift hearts about gay people, about black people.
Absolutely, I agree with that. One of the things that I wasn't as consistent when I was making the videos.
Oh, really?
Well, because it's as a creative and like even writing a book, it takes time, and sometimes I don't like recording trash. No matter what it is. Yeah. Even as a photographer, I don't like taking pictures if it's not going to have any depth to it. And even this last week, I had this example where I was kind of an empty slate. I'm like, I don't really know what I want to talk about. And I thought about just skipping the week. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that to the listeners.
Really?
But I thought about it because I don't like to just put out things just to put things out.
So you've never missed a week?
I've missed a week once when I was sick.
Okay.
But I had a bonus episode, so it all caught up. So they still got the 52 in that year, and it goes on and on and on.
Well, you know what? I took a little hiatus. Like, I'm just coming back.
Well, you need it sometimes, though. People take vacations, so we can't be expected to be here every week of the year.
But, I mean, you really could schedule it.
Yeah.
And, so even when you're on vacation, you could have podcasts drop. But I don't know. I just wanted to regroup, and I'm trying to record the audio version of my second book, which I still have not begun recording. So I figured during that time I could do that. And then also it gave me a chance to kind of step back and really outline the next season, quote unquote, of shows. So I wrote out topics and wrote out guests, and I reached out to those guests. So that's kind of how I did it.
That's smart.
I don't know if I'll do another hiatus. I mean, I may though. I mean, but then I'm thinking, okay, well, when will I take my next hiatus?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And it may be around the holidays or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think a hiatus is important. Maybe, but no longer than maybe 2 weeks though. I mean, that's vacation.
Well, about a month.
Well, I mean, honestly, you have to find that, and that's what I was saying earlier. Sometimes you just don't have the space. The canvas is blank. You're just I don't know what I want to do with this. It's like writer's block. And so I have moments like that, but I only like to put out good things.
Right.
That's when I give my best work. But the podcast, because it's so personal and because it's more like a weekly journal or a conversation with friends, it's easier to show up for it. So this has been my most consistent work ever because you're literally getting something every Wednesday versus spur of the moment, you know?
So what are some of the things that you've talked about on your podcast that were really timely? For me, I did one about, and I was supposed to be on my hiatus, but I did one on Jay-Z's 444 because it was so timely, and I knew that by the time I came back from my hiatus, it would have been old news. So I said, okay, let me stop. I need to do a podcast, so I got one done. But have there been things that you've talked about that were really socially relevant? It could be about politics or whatever.
Absolutely. The way the outline works, it's an outline of everything that's going on. So imagine being in school and you had to brainstorm your thoughts for a paper and you had to do a little bullet points.
Right.
That's how my show works. So every week there's segments. The first segment covers what's going on in the world.
Okay.
I call it What Y'all Lying About This Week. So that's where we hit all the relevance.
Okay.
But what I'll do is I'll take something and I'll make a main topic out of it. For example, this last week's show was about magical thinking. If you guys are listeners are fans of the show Insecure,
I love Insecure.
Last week's episode, Molly was at therapy and they were talking about magical thinking. This week's main topic was about magical thinking. I talked about all the shoulds I had in my life.
Absolutely.
And so there are times like that where it works out perfectly.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a moment of politics, entertainment, and what's going on, but then it goes into a main topic. But I also like to talk about pressing issues like monogamy versus open relationships
Mm-hmm.
or mental health or sexual harassment, just deep things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always pushing because I'm one of those guys who I'm not for everyone. I'm always the view that people will kind of side at me like, really?
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy that because I want to be a representation. We have to know that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to have a platform to just really push something and people can listen and say, thank you for saying that. I could
Right,
never say it in
right.
that way. So,
And for me, I think it's important to talk about things that are socially relevant, but there's a thread of the gay community in every podcast that I do. Because I really do believe that a part of my life's work, whether it's through the books, whether it's through the stage play that I've written and I'm working tirelessly to bring back to the stage, or this podcast, it is my goal to try to speak to the hearts and mind of gay people, but also to educate those who are allies and those who are not. So I try to talk about things that perhaps people don't really think about. Like one of the shows that we did was domestic violence in gay relationships.
absolutely.
But when I started the podcast, I wanted to talk about something that was really neutral. And so we talked about sex.
Yeah.
And just the story behind that is, it really wasn't even supposed to be a podcast. Like me and two of my producers, because I have two producers that work with me, and then one of our friends was here. I just wanted to tape. I just wanted to hear it because I was scheduled to do the first podcast the next week. So I needed to make sure that my sounds were right, my microphones were right, and everything was good. So we were just sitting here just talking, and I had cooked, we had a few glasses of wine, so everybody was a little loose.
Yes.
And so we just started talking about sex. And it really wasn't supposed to air, but then when I listened back to it, it was so hilarious. And then I stuck in these little sound effects. But I wanted it to, I decided that would be the first one because I didn't want people to tune in and think, his podcast is going to be completely gay.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not what I want to do either. So I've tried to do shows like Dear White People, where I speak directly to white people. Because black people already know the things that I talk about in Dear White People. So that one was really for the white listeners.
I love the one about education as well. Well, the pipeline.
School to prison
Yeah, that was a great
pipeline,
episode.
yeah.
You have great,
Thank you.
great middle line topics.
And that's what I try to go for. So I appreciate this. I'm glad that you get that.
Yeah, I got, I've always, I'm one of those guys who I am a gay male. And so it doesn't even have to be focused, but it's going to be gay because it's my perspective.
Absolutely.
But it was funny because when I first started the show, the first thing I said was, I am a gay man. I have gay sex. If you have an issue with either of those, this is the time to opt out. I said that on the first episode. And then over time, I was noticing that I didn't say anything about the show being an LGBT show, but it started being labeled that way. And then other people started kind of putting me in these things. And then earlier this year, I was ranked like top 5
Really?
LGBT by Pods and Color. I was just like,
That's
okay, so
awesome.
this is my thing. And it was funny because a visitor on the show a few weeks ago, he's straight. And he was telling me, he was like, you know, he's like, when you took on the LGBT-led podcast, he's like, that's when you started soaring. Because it is my perspective. And I educate. Like, I have straight listeners who listen and say, I never thought of it that way. You taught me something.
Exactly.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people who have a deaf ear to all that. They don't want to...
So is there a way for people to comment on your shows and things like
Absolutely,
that?
too many ways. My God.
So how do they typically?
SoundCloud is a big one. Some
Yeah.
people they'll tweet me directly. That happens. They slide in my inbox on Facebook. Like I get notifications from everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you said this, and I think you should. I'm just like, all right.
People always want to be able to call in. I'm like, well, no, you can't call in.
Yeah.
But they always say, well, where can I put my comments? And I give them those same places. Like you can.
Have you thought about doing a live show? Like as far as like Facebook Live or Instagram Live? Because it gives people a direct kind of impact. It's a lot of pressure. I've done it before. It's a
Well,
lot of
here's
pressure.
the thing. One of the first ones that I did was a Facebook Live, and the show was called The Bomb 90s Music and Television.
Yes.
But it never existed. It doesn't exist as a podcast.
Oh, okay.
I fucked up. Deleted all of the footage.
You have to.
I mean, all of the audio.
Hard learning.
And it really, part of it was my fault, yes, but part of it was because I really needed a new Mac, and so I had to get a new Mac ultimately. But because they started crashing and doing different things because I was saving different files or podcasts. But so we do have one that went up on Facebook Live, but you know how Facebook is. Once it it rotates or it descends. Like you can't even find it anymore on your timeline.
I would just save. You can save them to your album, and it'll be there. It's just I've done it. I've done it twice. It's just a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
If you had a like you said, producer or someone there with you,
one of them filmed it.
That's perfect because they can read to you comments and stuff. But trying to focus and talk, I was like, I'm good. You guys can just have
and then the thing with that is like people really have to be in pocket to be able to comment. You know what I'm saying? Like you really have to catch it at a time when people are really logged in because it just kind of people aren't always logged into Facebook, and then just because you set up a live video doesn't mean you're gonna have an audience really listening or paying attention. So I mean, I haven't really thought about doing that, but in terms of live, I've thought about doing a live show,
like at a location.
I
thought about that as well.
I saw that Kid Fury. Yeah, I saw him do that.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, but see, he has an incredible following at this point. So I'm not there yet.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're both gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
But so you said something about mental illness. Have you done a show on mental illness yet?
I did one recently actually. It's not up yet, but it'll be up probably by the time this show is up. But I did it with Yolo Akili, who was the CEO of Beam, which is Black Emotional and Mental. Yeah, and so we talked about mental illness. We talked about also domestic violence and sexual harassment in the gay community. And I also did another one.
Sexual harassment?
Yeah, it's like in the workplace and how it happens. Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time in corporate America.
So in terms of like...
Men and men.
Like, a gay supervisor or something?
Yeah, there's times where, they can... It's actually in... When we talked about it, I was like, wow, that has happened, but you don't think of it because you're like, oh, well, this is just how we operate. But you have to realize, no, this is a workplace. I shouldn't have to interact in this way with you and it not be a problem.
At my office place. Yeah.
Right. So we talked about that a little bit. And I also had another episode called We Aren't All Broken with
I saw that one.
Yeah, that was with Sensei Raven, the yogi, Scorpio yogi. And that was a great conversation of just talking about I realized with dating over time, you meet so many broken men.
Oh my God, I've written that in the book.
Right, you have. And then also talking to, I say, well, my friends seem to be together and we have healthy conversations, but why can't I have this with a relationship?
Okay, now we're warming up. Because here's the thing, I've had people. I've been single now 6 years.
Yeah,
a little over 6 years.
It's been 2 for me. Yeah,
and people have said to me, why are you single? As if I'm the only factor
you're choosing it. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, but initially, after my last relationship, that I wanted to take 2 years off from dating because I realized that I had never had like a year. I had never had longer than a year between any of my relationships from the time that I started dating guys at 22, and I'm 41. So I wanted to take off at least 2 years. I wanted to recover. I wanted, time to find me. And then I had written and produced. I had written the first book. So I was focused on that. I was focused on touring. And now that I'm ready to be in a relationship, a long-term monogamous relationship.
Say it. Make it plain.
Make it plain. But it's just, the options seem so few. And part of it is, I've run into so many broken black gay men. Yeah. And I'm talking about black gay men because that's who I date.
It's your perspective. It's important.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm opposed to dating outside of my race because I have dated a Salvadorian.
Okay.
Wasn't white, but it was Salvadorian. I've been on dates with some white men.
Still very nice. Still very
right. But I've never been in a relationship with anyone other than a black man. And from my perspective and in my experiences, there's so much brokenness. And I've looked around in my friend group plenty of times from the time that I came into this community and often felt like, well, if we're not that,
right,
we're the people that are like us. And if we're having these conversations, certainly there are other gay men in other pockets of this city, other pockets of this country, around the world that are having similar conversations. And then I even posed the question to my friends at one point, and of course we were friends at this point, but I said to them, if we're all saying we're looking for the same thing, then why aren't we dating each other?
Right.
And if, even outside of your friend group, if we're all saying the same things, why haven't we found each other?
And are we seeking brokenness subconsciously?
Subconsciously. And I think that many of us come into this community with a level of inherent internalized homophobia.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
And hypermasculinity. My God.
Absolutely. And I don't know if people are always willing to, because I don't care how open you are or how out you are. Even me, as evolved as I am in terms of sexuality, there are still certain things that I have to work through.
Listen, let's have a vulnerable moment. And this is another thing I do on my show. I like to lay it out and just say what it is. I commonly have to confront my own ugly. Like, outwardly, I would tell anyone to just be yourself, be out, be this. But there's still, as much as I don't care for like the DL kind of situation, because I feel like it's very cowardly at times or disrespectful, there are times where I'm attracted to it. And I'm like, what is this attraction? I can't stand what you're about.
And
I don't like how you would treat me, but I'm attracted to you.
And I would even venture to say that there are moments in your life that you prefer to be DL about certain things, because I think that I'm not a public affection person.
Me neither.
But I know as it relates to dating other men, I'm even more conscious of not being publicly affectionate because of my own desire to be DL with that.
Right.
Like, I don't really I couldn't hold hands walking. And I'm that way even if I was in a gay environment.
Yeah.
And whether it was Pride and we were out, or if we were in a club, like, I mean, I'm okay with some affection. I love affection.
Right.
I absolutely love affection.
But when
it comes to public displays, I can take it in small doses. Like, I don't mind a little peck. I can do it a little peck if we sitting in Houston's restaurant. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I'll give you a little peck. I can hold your hand under the table. Sitting at the table, not under the table, but sitting at the table or sitting in the movies, I can put my hand on your leg or whatever. Like, I'm okay with shit like that. But in terms of walking down Peachtree Street, holding hands, that would be it. So I think we all kind of have this internalized thing, yeah.
There's two things with that, what you just said about that. My experiences have made me want to be more discreet. Because I was in a very public relationship a couple years ago. And
public?
Well, as far as, me being a podcaster and all the stuff. Okay. So everyone knows who my boyfriend is. And that has
I don't know who he is.
That was 2 years ago. and that makes me happy that it's been enough time. But, it wasn't bad while we were together. But when we broke up, that's when I was like, I'll never do this again. Because then everyone...
Do what again?
Be so public about my relationship.
You mean posting your shit
posting shit on Instagram and stuff like that.
The kids, they love to celebrate quick.
Listen, we were together 3 years. But at the end of the day, everyone's all like, well, I'm not seeing any pictures anymore. And
you'd probably gone through and deleted all the pictures of him.
No, there's still some up, but I wasn't posting as much. So then it was just like, well, it looks like you've been single for a while. I just don't like that where you feel like that's your business.
But I saw a post one time, it was a meme, and it said,
when you break up, tell us, because that's our relationship too.
Exactly. Like not even that one, but that one was funny too. Yeah. But it was one that said, when you got in the relationship, you are happy and posting about it. So now that it's over, post about that. Let us know that shit is over.
Right. And I like that for the joke purpose, but I don't agree because we curate what we put online. And you shouldn't curate negative things online. Exactly. And that's not how that works. But I just don't want to deal with just the after effect. Like, it was great, we were happy, but then when it was over, and I had to go through like 6 months to a year, people saying, so what happened? And tell me, and I'm like, well, it's really none of your business. There's that. And then two, also as someone who is, I hate saying public figure because I feel like I ain't shit. But as someone who is being a little bit more seen, I don't like people to know who I'm fucking. I just don't. Listen. So I like discretion because I like it to be like, you're away, because I don't ever want to be, oh, Kevin, oh yeah, I smashed him. Oh, Kevin, this happened.
And here's the thing, like, for me, like, speaking to the point of being more known and more visible and that kind of thing, I think that plays into my singleness as well. Because I'm very leery, because and I'm not at all saying that I'm famous or any shit like that. For the haters that's listening, that's giving me a side eye already, and I haven't even finished my sentence. But I'm always leery because there have been plenty of instances where people knew who I was already. You know what I'm saying? And I don't like when people think they know who you are.
Right.
No, I've written a couple books. I host this podcast now, but the person that I wrote about in those books, I don't even recognize that motherfucker no more. So certainly you don't know who I am. And so usually if I meet somebody and they don't know who I am, which in a lot of cases, I've met plenty of people who had no idea who I was, what I did, or anything like that.
That's who you date. That's who you date.
That's who you date. But more importantly, I try my best not to even tell them what I do for as long as I can, because then they'll just go looking the shit up.
Me too.
And you don't have to Google these days. You can go look the shit up on Facebook.
I get nervous. Like, what's your Instagram? I don't have one.
Right. I tell them, I don't have that. I don't have that.
I think the mindset changed. I've noticed the mindset change. Like, listen, like, this is still very much something I do on my own. Like, I just got sponsors, but that's not bringing in, like, no money like that. And I've noticed that when people see, like, your following, or they see, like, oh, it's sponsored, oh, this, their mindset instantly changed. And I've seen people who were kind of like, in interest, and then it raises to, ooh, I want to be around you all the time. I'm like, you weren't this gung-ho at first.
Right.
Why are you now? Because, oh, I saw your Instagram, and you seem pretty popular, so I feel like I should invest in you now. No.
Because I've heard somebody said to me once, you know, you have to be careful because people, they may not fall in love with you, but they fall in love with your dreams. They fall in love with your career. And that's definitely true.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? People can definitely do that. Because now everybody wants to be famous anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People want to have all of this Instagram fame, and you can't tell some of these kids with 50,000 and 100,000 followers that they ain't famous.
Right.
But my thing is, it just seems to me like you would parlay that into something to make something benefit you, like financially or something. Like, use that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of just posting pictures? You know what I'm saying? And just to be recognized when you go.
Listen, people want to be famous for doing absolutely nothing. Like, literally just want to literally have this whole post a selfie, and that's going to get me. I'm like, no, you have to do way more than that.
And it's sometimes it is. I have to be mindful not to try to feed the beast, because sometimes I do feel like, well, let me post something because let me see how many pictures I can get. And I've gotten gotten caught up in this whole idea of, well, you need to post at a certain time because more people are looking at that time. I'm like, I'm not doing all that.
I mean, but at the same time, that's social media management, and you're coming at it from a business standpoint.
Right.
It's not just a vanity thing, and because I think about those things too. I do post scheduling and everything with automation and all that, because it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
And you got to push the podcast and the photography and everything, so I have to do that. But it's never just like, oh, this selfie needs to go up at 10:08.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like there are people who post all day long and they use these photo editors. I'm like, when do you have time to do this? Because like between me managing my social media and this book talk, because again, to your point, like I'm really doing it because if I didn't have product to push or, you know, a podcast to build, I probably wouldn't even be posting as much.
Right.
As I do.
But I think you're using it effectively. Like, social media is there for that. And that's smart. But when you do, like I said, the people who are just all about like literally it's just it's pick after pick. And listen, if you check my Instagram, I have plenty of shirtless, plenty of moments where I'll do my own thing, but that's not the whole thing.
Right.
So I'm all about that. But when that's all you're offering, that's when I'm kind of like, eh.
I mean, y'all all in y'all underwear now. You talking about you running for mayor in 2018. I'm like, well, how you gonna run for mayor? And you in Insta video smoking weed.
Yeah.
And you in your underwear.
Yeah, I can't do the weed smoke videos. Like, like they have the blunt there, and I'm like, I mean, I get it, you do hookah, vape, or something, but when you have the blunt right there, I'm like,
that's the kind of shit that'll come back and haunt you when they betting you for these offices or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Or at least have a different name. Don't put your stuff under your government. People make very childish decisions. I'm glad I didn't have social media all of my life like some people because, I don't know, my dumb decisions are long gone and on Polaroid, and those pictures are destroyed. So we're good.
You and me both.
Right.
So let's switch gears. What are you watching on television?
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm binge watching Game of Thrones right now.
I've never seen an episode.
I just started watching it last week.
I keep hearing that it's amazing. But it's a period piece, right? And see, I don't like period movies.
And this is why I'm the perfect candidate for that, because I'm the same way. I don't care. I'm like, it's a bunch of white people. I don't care. It's period piece.
And they got on...
all the stuff of that time.
Regalia.
And so in 2011, I'm like, I watched one episode like, no, I'm good. I don't care. And then like when season 7 came out, all these people were like, it's just so good. My friend.
And see, I feel like I'm so far behind. I feel like I just need to miss this movement.
True. But then a friend of mine was like, just give it one more chance. I'm like, okay. So one day I was like, fine.
You went back to the first season?
I went back to the first season, watched the first episode, but this time I did it like I was going to school because I had the subtitles on because that thick King's language I can't do, and then also IMDb has the synopsis, so it gives you layman terms of what's happening.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I get it. By episode 3, I was in.
Really?
By episode 3, the first 2 I was like, I'm still not understanding. By episode 3, I was in because you start learning the different characters, the personalities of them, and you figure out who you like and who you're connecting with. And now I'm in season 4. Like, I just started last week, mind you. So I've been watching that. Insecure is my favorite show of all time right now.
Insecure is absolutely.
I think it captures my generation perfectly, and I've never seen a show do that. Like,
In what way?
Well, for example, growing up, I used to watch Girlfriends and Will and Grace,
How old are
and
you?
I'm 31. Okay. I used to watch all those shows, but they were always older than me. So I always loved them. Sex and the City loved the shows. But
And I feel like Insecure is the black version of Sex and the City.
it really is.
Yeah.
But it's great because these characters are now my age.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that there's been a show that's like, this is right where I'm at. I'm not looking ahead or behind. And that's why I love it, because I'm like, this is exactly where I'm at. And I appreciate that. So it's definitely one of my faves for that reason, because I've always been one to look up. Girlfriends, I'm like in high school watching that show. Sex and the City, same thing. Loving it, learning from it. But now I watch those shows and look at the mistakes they made. I'm like, your mindset changed. Like, oh, that's pathology.
Right.
Oh, she has a lot of internal stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Whereas as a kid, I was like, oh, well, she's just this.
Right.
It's amazing to go back and see things.
Yeah.
But
I think Insecure is so brilliantly written, for one. I love the way that it's shot.
beautiful shots of LA.
But I'm so proud of her.
Yeah, me
because
too.
I remember Awkward Black Girl on YouTube.
It's like 2008.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a long time.
Yeah, and I remember a friend of mine in Maryland said, hey, have you seen this YouTube series? And she sent it to me. And I remember watching it, and I was like, oh, wow. And I knew that she had a schedule. She dropped a new show every week. I can't remember what day it was.
Yeah.
But every week I had subscribed. And I would catch up on it when I could. And I remember she would do it in like seasons.
Yep.
And she would go off on break, and then she'd come back. And then I remember hearing sometime later that there were some networks that were trying to court her. But she was very resistant and very reluctant to sign for ABC or NBC, like, a broadcast channel, because she felt like it would dilute the show. Because, it's really raw, like the things that they say. And
love it so much.
the topics. So it would have been diluted had she gone to regular television. And so I read an article where she was really not interested in doing that. And then I later heard that she had gotten signed to HBO.
Which is the perfect decision.
And I was like, wow.
The show's beautiful.
It is.
The soundtrack is amazing. The views are amazing.
Speaking of the
timing.
soundtrack, I just saw something that Bryson Tiller and Jasmine Sullivan doing the second
We're going to
season.
say Jasmine Sullivan first because that's the
So
key.
what are they? Are they producing the soundtrack? Are they written the songs?
There
for
was
the
a
soundtrack?
single. It's called Insecure. It's a very good song. Jasmine Sullivan, I like the song lyrics. I was reading them. That's what I love about Apple Music and Spotify. You can read the lyrics as they're
Tidal has that too. Let's support the black people.
Tidal is amazing too. I have them all.
I'm all about supporting black
Right,
business.
they pull all my money out
Whenever I can.
It's one of those things like with Tidal. I love Tidal for all the exclusive content, but I love Apple's interface, so I keep them both. But I was reading the lyrics.
I do feel like the title could kind of make
it could be
stuff a little
better,
more
but their content's
user-friendly.
great.
Yeah, the content is great.
Yeah, but
Because it took me forever to find a damn shuffle button. I'm like,
Why you like, where is it?
I'm like, where is this shit? Okay, can I add stuff to my queue? Or
Right,
what?
like what's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So until they figure that out, we gonna stick with both. But the song is actually about the guy being insecure.
Oh,
When I first heard it, I was like, what is Jasmine talking about? She's like, she's saying she's insecure, but I said, oh no, she's saying he's insecure. She's gonna leave him if he doesn't get it together. I said, I like that slang because we're always told that women are the ones.
Right.
And I don't like social constructs of gender. I hate when we feel like women are one way, men are one way. It's actually not true.
There's certain characteristics or character traits are specific to gender.
And it's also how we are raised. We're put in these boxes. Growing up, stop crying. Boys ain't supposed to cry like that. Girls, you need to be a little more softer. But when you grow older, we're asking for the opposite of our partners. Why would you open up more? Why would you be a little more?
Right. And then they wonder why. Women wonder why. And even gay men wonder why men can't be gentler, softer, more affectionate,
Expressive.
more communicative.
Right.
Yes, in relationships. Well, you're trained as a kid, as a boy, not to do all of those things. So you can't just magically just start doing it once you get into this relationship. So what else are you watching? Because I'm watching Power.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I love Power.
Oh my God, I love
Power is amazing. At this point, I don't need Tyreek at all. Well, no, that show was amazingly rated.
Yeah.
I feel like they're at their peak because this season has been really, really good.
It really has been good. And somebody was telling me yesterday that he thinks that they're going to be leaving Stars because 50 Cent is kind of like beefing with Stars because I think they were supposed to do more episodes this season. I don't know when the last episode is.
The thing about it is, okay, so 50 Cent has a big role in the show, but he's not the sole role of the show.
No, he's not.
I was reading about that. He actually doesn't have as much power, pun intended, as it seems because of his name. Because he also was mad when they showed his penis on that one episode.
Yeah.
So if you were really running this show, that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So that let me know, like, you actually are not it's your show, but you don't have as much leeway. But I did see that he was starting a little beef with Stars, which I think is not the most brilliant of things. But apparently it's because Power is the highest rated show.
It's the highest rated show on the
But
network.
they're not funding it as well as they should. And that, once again, when you wear a certain color.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see if they leave. But I just hope that if they leave and go to another network, that it won't be disjointed. Because that's how I feel about Being Mary Jane. Being Mary Jane, that's the perfect segue to that. Being Mary Jane was one of my favorite shows, like the first 2 seasons.
Right.
But when I tell you...
When Mara left, it
just changed.
It's her baby. You can't create... It's like if you like license your books out to someone else, you be like, but you're not writing them anymore.
Yes.
And you put your name on it and somebody else is writing it. You're like,
it's kind of like when Elin passed and then they had somebody finish his book. It's like, no, you should have just left it alone.
Yeah.
Like, why try to finish this man's books? But I felt like that with... Being Mary Jane, because once the character moved to New York, which of course they're still filming in Atlanta, that's the other thing. I think they do a very poor job of these camera shots and camera angles, because anybody who lives in Atlanta or knows Atlanta knows that you're shooting at the old Macy's down on Peachtree Street across from the Ritz-Carlton.
That's Ponce right there.
Right, and I'm just like, can y'all stop doing that? Like, just do really narrow shots. So all you see is trees and things. Like, I hate shit like that.
And New York don't even have trees, so you screwed out with that.
Exactly. So it's like the cinematography is bad now, and the storyline is really trite.
I'm tired of the pathology of it. I feel like she's making it's like, come on now. At some point you're going to grow.
Same kind of guy. But even deeper than that, I feel like the storylines are trite. I know Patrick Ian Polk, the creator of Noah's Ark, is now writing on this show.
That explains a lot of the cameos in the show.
Yes, and I'm really not a fan of his writing. I celebrate him for being the first in terms of Noah's Ark and having a black gay show.
It could be stronger.
But it could be stronger. Even back then, the storylines were poor.
He has those Tyler Perry kind of storylines.
Yes, the storylines aren't developed.
Right.
And I just feel like when Mary Jane moved to New York, she was no longer connected to her family. Like, the storylines that were in Atlanta died when she left. Like, we don't see her parents anymore. The brother that's on drugs anymore.
Oh yeah, he disappeared.
He disappeared.
Her niece,
The niece got this little settlement and she pissed that off and had to pay it back, so we don't really hear from her anymore. And then my thing is, if one of my closest friends had committed suicide, I would probably be in therapy in New York. Like, she never talks about that anymore. It's just
she's not growing.
No,
and it's disappointing. And then I have a hard time believing that a woman of that stature, that age, and then also that type of career doesn't have access to these resources to get what she needs. And she, in the beginning, she was putting Post-it notes up, affirmations.
Right.
Where does she go?
Well, that's what I'm saying. And I think that's a part of what we lost when Mara left, took her hands off the reins, because she still is an executive producer. But she just signed a deal with Harpo, not Harpo, OWN Networks. Yeah. So she's going to be developing shows over there. But the same thing happened when the game went off the air.
Oh, and went to BET.
And then it went to BET. My God. I think what was problematic about it, and don't quote me, I don't know this to be the case, but I'll be willing to bet that when she moved to BET, yes, she was still there, but I'd be willing to bet that some of the other writers didn't come back. Some of the other directors didn't come back. So it wasn't just the magic of the cast. Right. It's also those background people, because you see Will and Grace is coming back in September.
Yeah.
But I just read an article the other day, and not only is the cast coming back, but all of the directors that directed the original shows, the writers of the show coming back, all those people coming. It's a team.
I'm so ready.
You know what I mean?
I'm so ready.
I'm looking forward to Will and Grace.
And they're going to act like the finale never happened. Because that was, as a fan, we're like, how you going to do? They were like, we're just going to pretend it didn't happen.
Exactly. Just keep going. One of the other shows that I'm absolutely in love with, I'm so proud of, is Queen Sugar.
Come through. I have not watched the season yet.
Oh my God.
And I'm going to catch up because I think the mid-season finale was last week, right?
It was.
And I've been avoiding tweets and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a great show, but I haven't been emotionally ready to watch it. Because I remember the tug
You
of
have
watching
to
that
be-
show last season. Even with This Is Us, it was a tug every
Oh my
week.
God, This Is Us is amazing.
Right. But it was a tug every week, and I was like, I haven't been ready to jump back in yet, but I am going to because I love Kofi now.
What she's done an amazing job at doing, and I mean Ava, is one, enlisting a different female producer, a different female director for every episode.
Yes, that's beautiful too.
And I think that the eye of a woman is what's been missing from television. Like, it has a different context.
I think it explores character.
It does.
And
you
it
can see-
develops actual personalities and
Yes.
intentions where we're
Yes.
just very face value.
Exactly. And then what happens is, in this series, they take their time with developing the stories of each of the characters. They have a wonderful way of bringing each one forward and magnifying them and what's going on with them. Even down to the little boy Blue with the doll. And I read an article where they were saying in the first season they never even addressed this little doll. None of the characters talked about it. We just saw him carrying this doll. And it wasn't until second or third episode of the second season that somebody in the show mentions this doll. And I love it because she's using the doll as a proxy for sexuality. Not that the little boy is gay, because I don't think that that's the storyline at all. I think they're using the doll to say to black people and to society, but black people in particular, that playing with a doll does not define a little boy's sexuality. That you do not learn to be gay. You're either gay biologically or you're not. So I love this show. And then I love that the father, Kofi, Ralph Angel, is accepting of his son as he is. So I just think that it's, and I mean, not to mention all of the other storylines with Nova writing about the criminalization of black folks. I mean, it's
a brilliantly written show.
Oh my God.
They include everything and they target it in a way. And honestly, it reminds me of the depth that theater gives you, where you get those monologues. It's like she brings monologues to life. So you get to hear what the person's going through, and like you said, bring them forward. So I imagine the spotlight being on them that episode. You're just like, oh wow, this is what you're doing, and you really feel like you're getting to know every single character.
Them.
That's a beautifully shot show too.
It really is.
It's a feeling, but it's emotional. Every time I see it, I want to cry. I'm like,
and I saw on Facebook on somebody's page last week, and he was just like, I'm just trying to see what everybody else is saying about Queen Sugar because it's just a snooze fest. I'm just bored, and I'm just like, you know what? And not to attack anyone's intelligence.
I will. He's probably dumb as hell. People who do stuff like that drive me crazy.
I know.
Especially if everyone's into something. Well, let's see what the hype is about.
Exactly.
Obviously, there's something there that people care about.
Exactly.
And if you don't get it, that's you.
Fine.
Maybe you should read more. Or maybe you should be more invested in the world around you to understand why people are enjoying it and you're not.
Exactly. Because I'm going to tell you, it's definitely for thinking and feeling people.
Yes.
And when I tell you what I love about it is it's slow and gradual.
Grown folks television.
Yes, it's easy storytelling. She's spoon feeding you the storylines and the issues of each of the characters. And I think that what happens is people are so used to the matter of factness of shows like Empire
or reality TV has ruined us.
Yes, you're expecting everything to be like over the top and just. And, for me, Empire just lost my...
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
That's another example of someone who got too hotly, it's someone who got too big for their britches, and then everything just went downhill from there. It's that same example, and it disappoints me, because when they first come out, you're, like, rooting for them.
Right.
Because you're like, yes, one of us.
Right.
And then they start just kind of... I don't like the word sellout, because I believe in business. You're going to get your business, but don't weaken your brand for the sake of just ratings.
He was just sensationalizing every episode because it was so celebrity driven
and oversexed. And I was like, the way they oversexed Dusty, I said,
everybody was bisexual. Every time I looked up at somebody, a woman was kissing another woman. I was like, okay, this is way too much.
It's not a good view. But what you were saying about the slow and gradual, I've also seen people do that with Insecure. Insecure is kind of straightforward, but I think if you're a thinking and smart person, you see the depth of the stuff. Some people just see like, oh yeah, Team Issa, Team this. I'm I'm like, you don't see that they both have issues. Though.
Absolutely.
You don't see that they both are dealing with things that no one's perfect in this situation.
Absolutely.
Like, he was stagnant as a black man and he was on this couch and then she's expected to take on the brunt. You don't see that she was wrong for this. Everyone just sees Team Issa. I'm like, if you just see Team Issa, Team Lawrence, you're not seeing the actual story.
Right. And to your point, as far as him being stagnant, I don't even know if I would say that he was stagnant because I've been him.
Yeah,
in relationships.
We've all been. Well,
yeah,
I've been him, not in a relationship.
No, I've been him in my relationships at one point or another because I had these big dreams. I had the business plan done, but I was depressed. I believe he was depressed.
Yeah, he was.
He was on unemployment. He was sleeping on the couch. He was living pretty much off his girlfriend because she was making a salary and he just had whatever he was getting paid for unemployment. But that didn't mean that.
Doesn't make him a bad person.
It doesn't make him a bad person. Doesn't mean he was a bad guy.
Right.
I think that it speaks to the ebbs and flows of relationships. And sometimes one of you will be in the valley and you need the support of another person because it could have been the flip. It could have been the reverse. She could have been out of work, but see, because of those social norms, we expect, oh, well, he's the man. He should be able to take care of her. But she could have been suffering through like a depression and a very extremely sad time. And so that's the way I saw it. And I felt like this was an opportunity for her to roll her sleeves up and say, look, my man is going down and he's not feeling well because he's feeling inadequate about himself. Because there have been moments in my life where I felt like I just needed somebody to really love me through whatever that space that I was in. But I understand it's also hard too. Well, after a while, it's like, okay,
you're digging into the see, it's a whole nother, that's why I love the show, because you're also digging into the black woman superhero theory.
Absolutely.
Where that black woman,
already do enough.
They're just supposed to just take on everything that a man gives them. That's why I love how brilliant the show is, because it really challenges both of those sides. Like, because I'm down, I need you to do all this for me. And even in my own gay relationships, I've been the one who was kind of bringing in the money. And I remember how stressful it was. Like, I remember how I didn't even want to like have sex or anything with them at a certain point because I'm like, these bills are due. What are you doing? I'm covering this, I'm covering that, but what are you doing? Like, it's in my name. What are you doing? And I remember just being patient and patient and patient and patient.
Who was patient? 2 weeks? A month?
We were together for quite a while. Yeah, no, it was a while. But we had to. Nope, that wasn't me. I had to trying to help with like business ideas and help with certain things and do all these things. Yeah, but then after a while, you're just like, at what point do you realize it's a lot? And I know you're going through it. I'm one of those people that I'm empathetic and patient, but at a certain point,
sometimes enough becomes too little.
Right. So and that's why I love it, because they show both sides. You can't, like, I don't hate or dislike, I don't hate or like either one of them. I just like watching it unfold, because this is like how relationships work. And so no one's perfect.
And you watch This Is Us?
I do watch This Is Us. Yes. Another emotional heart. Oh my God. Mandy Moore, listen.
I love her as an actress.
Me too.
I loved her since Because I Said So. Yes. It was a movie many years ago.
Oh, I loved it.
And Diane Keaton. And she had a little catering business. Oh my God, I love that movie.
Super cute.
Yes, I'm going to have to watch that again. But it's called Because I Said So.
Walk to Remember and How to Deal was good. That dealt with depression.
How to Deal?
Yeah. Okay. It was kind of like a romantic comedy in a way, but it was a dark romantic comedy.
With Mandy Moore.
Yeah, with Mandy Moore. Okay. And I loved her back then. Yeah. And so I've always respected that about her. But this show, the fact that she can play a grandmother and
like she's bad. She's so dimensional. But I'm gonna tell you, my favorite character is Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah.
When I tell you that man,
beautiful man too.
He anchors that show.
Yes.
But he first came into my consciousness with The People versus OJ.
Which he looked totally different.
He looks totally different. Because in The People versus OJ, I was like, oh, he's a funny looking guy. Like, he just looked really ashy, and his lips always looked really dry, and I was like, what's going on with him? But then when I saw him in This Is Us, I was like, this man has depth. He has range. Like, I love the way that they tell the story, and it flashes from past tense to present day. Yeah. Past tense to present day.
Do you ever get nervous? I get nervous when it goes past. I always feel like something's going to happen. So when it goes past, I'm always like, my heart starts beating like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
No, I don't get mad when it goes to the...
Not just get anxious.
I get anxious when it's showing something in present day and then it goes to the past, because I'm thinking that when it comes back to the present, something devastating is going to happen.
Yeah.
So when it goes to the past, I don't get anxious. I feel like that's an opportunity for me to learn something. I think that's their chance to... I think they use that flashback as an opportunity to kind of give you the backstory on Kate and why
Yeah.
she's overweight.
Yeah.
Or Sterling. What's his name on the show? I can't even think of his name on the show.
Don't even get me.
But yeah, so I always think that
Yeah.
they just kind of, doing that. But I love This Is Us, and I can't
great.
wait for it to come back on.
I'm proud of where television is reclaiming, rather, because we had a decade of just all reality television, and it seems like now people are starting to write good shows again.
And part of that is because, remember, they won the strike. There was a writer's strike.
That was true.
So
yeah.
a lot of those television shows became reality shows because there were no writers to tell the
True,
stories.
very true. But
Yeah.
I love that we're back in a place where you're getting your good.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm at a place where I forget about shows. I have to have a list.
I have a list
of
too
what
on
to
my
watch.
phone.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what? Because it's so much to watch.
Especially when a season ends, I'm like, okay, so what can I watch now?
Right.
Because I love the Carmichael show.
Oh, me too. I'm sad it's leaving.
But it's leaving
It's
after
such a
2
great
seasons.
show.
But I heard it's because he wanted to do something about police or something.
And they blocked it.
And they blocked it. So he decided to cancel the show. Now that's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because that's your career. Like this is your namesake.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Carmichael show.
Yeah,
And
I
so
love that
to
show.
take a stand like that, and I think more of us need to take a stand like that. Especially those of you who listen, or those of you who are sports fans, you know,
Right.
with all that's going on right now with Kaepernick, like you all need to take a stand and support this guy because there's no reason that he should be punished
Right.
for taking a stand or
Or don't compromise your
exercising his freedom of
integrity
speech.
for the sake of, and I like that, like with Issa not wanting to go on ABC.
Exactly.
She's like, no, I'll hold off so I can tell the story the way I want to tell
Exactly.
it.
But I also think that, to your point, this is the renaissance of black television. Like, yes, we talked about some white shows like This Is Us because there's only really like
But
part of the
that
cast
black
is
man
black.
holds
he
a
does.
heavy
He
weight.
and his wife because I love his relationship with his wife.
Heavyweight.
But I think that this is the renaissance of black music and television, really, because when we look at television, we have shows like Insecure. You have Being Mary Jane, even though I offered my criticism. We have Scandal. You have How to Get Away with Murder.
Survivor's Remorse.
So, yeah, and Blackish, which is hilarious to
Right.
me. I absolutely love Blackish. So there's such a hodgepodge of shows that feature black people,
And it's telling it
good
from
content.
and it's telling it from the actual black gaze. It's not a white producer just presenting black people. It's not
Right.
it's not Good Times, which was a
Right.
great show for what it was.
For what it was.
But if you watch it, you're like, God damn, like are they
Right.
ever gonna win?
Right.
And it gives you we're getting more depth, we're getting more we're explaining ourselves better. Our representation is weighted now. And I love seeing that.
And as far as music, I believe the same is true for music. We've seen it with Beyonce's Lemonade. Yes, it was autobiographical, but she also used it to speak to black culture with songs like Freedom. Yes, Solange, Seat at the Table, which is absolutely my favorite CD
Hell,
right
444. My God, that
444.
that family did it in the last year.
Yes, 444. David Banner's album is absolutely brilliant. I didn't get to study it as much as I wanted to, but I definitely spent some time with it. His album is absolutely
Have you
conscious.
checked out PJ Morton's latest effort,
I have
Gumbo?
not.
Check it out.
And he was just at the Essence Festival when I was there.
I'm
so I
actually
did
seeing
see
him on the 24th at Vinyl.
Okay.
Yeah, his album, I like it because he talks about like religion and like is that like his song is like, is that really your God or is that you? And I was
Yeah.
like, listen, the fact that you put this in a song,
Exactly. Exactly.
and people are really starting to use their voices, their
artistry.
lyrics to actually change
speak to
things,
some things,
like
yeah,
it was
to
in the
shift-
70s and the
To shift
60s. You know?
change, to shift culture.
Yeah, because we can't party all the time. I like to party too, but
Absolutely.
you need.
But that's what art is supposed to
Right.
be, and I've known that for a very long time.
Right.
I used to pray that everything that I create be used to change the hearts and minds of people, provoke people to think. Because I think that whenever you hear a song, it should provoke you to think. It should challenge you. Whenever you leave a movie, whenever you leave a stage production, you should leave feeling differently. Seeing the world with new eyes and shifting you in some kind of way. It should provoke you to think. So I absolutely believe that's what art is. But I really I'm in love with the content that's coming out right now.
It's a good time.
It is a good time. It's a really good
It's a
time.
really good time. I love it. And like I said, I'll have a list. That's why Queen Sugar's been put on the back burner. I'm like, I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. But every time I have that moment, I'm like, I don't want to be sad right now, though.
Right. Oh, and then you had shows like ATL.
Yeah.
Or Atlanta.
Oh,
I should
Atlanta,
say.
which is not coming back till next year.
And then the Get Down.
The Get Down
on
was
Netflix.
great. They ended it though, but that was a great show, and that's another thing.
I couldn't get into the Get Down.
It takes a minute.
That first episode was long as hell.
It was like a movie.
And I could never get through it.
And then you have movies too. Did you see The Incredible Jessica James? Mm-mm. It's a black female lead. She's from The Daily Show. Great, cute movie. And what I enjoyed about it was about her. And you see that she's a black woman, but it wasn't so black-centric to the point that it was overdone. It was very much her being a human. A lot like how it is with like Issa Rae. It's like she gets to be quirky. She gets to be all these things that we're typically not seen as being. Not so polished. Even though we're like, as a black person, we have our moments of just being, and to see people show that on television, that was so great. Right. Because, we're always presented in some way. We're always presented as hard or, like low on emotion and things like that. So I appreciate where entertainment is going. Now there are some failures. We still have Love and Hip Hop and everything else.
Oh God, I've never seen an episode.
Right, we still have the other side of it, but for the sake of the culture, we do have a lot of great positive content. So I like it.
That's what's up. Any final thoughts? Any last words?
No, no. This was extensive.
Absolutely. Tell people how they can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's The World of Kevin, spelled just like that. You can check out my website, kevindwayne.com, and also subscribe to the podcast, the Outline Podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on SoundCloud, Stitcher, or you can just go to kevindwayne.com and subscribe there.
You've been listening to So Much to Say, and again, I'm Craig the Writer Stewart. My website is www.craigthewriterstewart. My Instagram and Facebook are both Craig the Writer Stewart. Be sure to share this podcast, and thank you for tuning in. Be safe, keep loving yourself.